retiring from the UFC after 2 years of ducking, dodging, and disappearing. I'm hanging up the gloves. I went from the GOAT to the DOTE, duck of all.
They tried to cancel him, strip his titles, erase his legacy. But Jon Jones is still standing. And now, he's more dangerous than ever. From multiple arrests to failed drug tests, the UFC world had every reason to turn its back on him. But when the cage door shuts, Jon becomes a monster that no one can stop. This is the story of how the most controversial fighter in UFC history fought back against everything. And why his comeback might be the scariest version of Jon Jones we've ever seen. Jon Jones, a name that inspires fear, controversy, and respect all at once. He's been called the greatest mixed martial artist of all time, but he's also been called a fraud, a cheater, a criminal. So how does someone with so much chaos around him continue to dominate one of the toughest sports on the planet? This isn't just a comeback story. It's a war against cancel culture, personal demons, and the fight game itself. Let's break down the rise, fall, and dangerous return of Jon "Bones" Jones. When Jon Jones first stepped into the UFC, nobody could believe what they were seeing. He was young, awkward, and unpredictable. But the moment he started fighting, it was clear. He wasn't just different. He was on another level. Born in 1987 in Rochester, New York, Jones came from a family of athletes. One brother played in the NFL. Another played for the Patriots. But Jon chose violence. He picked up MMA in his early 20s and steamrolled his way into the UFC. In just a few fights, he was dismantling legends. He destroyed Stephan Bonnar. He manhandled Vladimir Matyushenko. He toyed with Ryan Bader. And then came the biggest test of his life, Mauricio "Shogun" Rua. At just 23 years old, Jon Jones became the youngest UFC champion in history by beating Shogun like it was nothing. He didn't just win, he humiliated him, and the world started whispering the words, "Greatest of all time." But with every step up the ladder, Jones was also falling behind the scenes. Fame came fast, so did money, and so did the temptation. While Jones was building an unstoppable record in the cage, his personal life was spiraling. In 2012, just a year after defending his title against legends like Rampage Jackson and Lyoto Machida, Jon was arrested for DUI. He crashed his Bentley into a pole. UFC fans were shocked, but the UFC stood by him. He returned to the octagon, beat Vitor Belfort, and went back to the top. But that DUI was the first sign that Jones wasn't just fighting opponents. He was fighting himself. Then came the infamous 2015 hit-and-run incident. Jon ran a red light, hit a pregnant woman's car, broke her arm, and then ran away from the scene. He returned only to grab a handful of cash from the car and fled again. Police issued a warrant for his arrest. UFC had no choice. They stripped him of his title and suspended him indefinitely. It was the fall of a king, and for many, that should have been the end. But it wasn't. After the hit and run, the UFC world turned cold. Sponsors dropped him. Fans called him a disgrace. Media painted him as a lost cause. They tried to erase his greatness. But Jones wasn't done. In 2016, he was set to return at UFC 200 against Daniel Cormier, his biggest rival. The hype was off the charts, but 3 days before the fight, disaster struck again. Jon failed a drug test. He was pulled from the card. Another suspension. By now, even hardcore fans started giving up on him. Too much baggage. Too many second chances. Jon's name became toxic. Yet somehow, he still believed in one thing, that when he fights, no one can touch him. And when he finally returned again, he proved it. At UFC 214, he knocked out Daniel Cormier with a brutal head kick. Cormier fell like a tree. The rivalry was over. Or so we thought. That win was later overturned because of another failed test, another silence, another stain, another scandal. It was like the world didn't want to let him speak with his fists anymore. Every time he got back up, they tried to push him back down. But Jon Jones didn't quit. He rebuilt. While serving suspensions and fighting legal cases, Jones didn't disappear. He trained, he studied, he watched, and when he finally returned in 2018, he was smarter, more calculated, cold. He came back to reclaim the title he never lost. He beat Alexander Gustafsson in a rematch. Then he beat Anthony Smith. Then Thiago Santos. Then Dominic Reyes. All within 2 years. No drama. No excuses. Just violence. But there was something different. Jones wasn't fighting with the same fire. He was winning, but barely. The Reyes fight had people questioning if Jon had lost a step. So what did he do? He vanished. He walked away from the light heavyweight division, vacated the belt, disappeared from the rankings. Everyone thought he was done. But behind the scenes, Jon Jones was transforming. He wasn't done fighting. He was preparing to become something even more terrifying. For years, Jon teased a move to heavyweight. Many doubted it. He was lean, lanky, not built like the monsters of the heavyweight division, but in 2023, he returned. And not just as a fighter, as a heavyweight. At UFC 285, Jon Jones stepped into the octagon to fight Cyril Gane for the vacant heavyweight title. Gane was bigger, stronger, and faster than most. But none of that mattered. Jones submitted him in 2 minutes. No damage taken, no sweat broken. It was one of the easiest title wins in UFC heavyweight history. He didn't just return, he conquered. He became a 2-division champion. And just like that, the silence was over. Jon Jones wasn't just back, he was reborn. So why is Jon Jones more dangerous now than he's ever been? First, he's patient. The old Jon fought too often and made bad choices outside the cage. This new Jon takes his time. He's smarter with his body, smarter with his words, smarter with his legacy. Second, he's bigger, literally. He added over 40 pounds of muscle. He's no longer the lanky kid trying to dominate older fighters. He is the older fighter now, and he's built like a tank. Third, he knows the system. He's been suspended, tested, fined, stripped, and judged. He knows every loophole, every risk, every trigger. He's a veteran of chaos, and he thrives in it. Fourth, he's fueled by hate. Jon Jones knows the UFC world still doubts him, still calls him a cheater, still says asterisk when they say his name. And that hate doesn't break him. It feeds him. Now, every time he steps into the octagon, it's personal. Jon's next test? UFC legend Stipe Miocic, the greatest heavyweight champion in UFC history. The two were scheduled to fight at UFC 295, but injury pushed Jon out. Fans were disappointed. Critics called it ducking. But Jones made it clear, this fight will happen. And when it does, it might be the final chapter of his career. Why Stipe? Because beating Stipe means something. It means erasing all doubts. Stipe beat Cormier. He fought Ngannou. He knows pain. And if Jon dominates him, it's checkmate. Jon Jones isn't looking for money fights. He's looking for a legacy. He's not running from danger. He's becoming it. Jon Jones is not a role model. He's not trying to be. But he is a legend. Most champions win clean and fade away. Jon won dirty, won big, lost everything, and still came back. Some fans hate him, others worship him, but no one ignores him. His career is like a movie. Rise, fall, redemption, betrayal, and return. And if he beats Stipe Miocic, There won't be a debate anymore. Not about GOAT status, not about greatness, not about history. Because love him or hate him, Jon Jones is the fight game's most complete villain. And sometimes, villains win. So, what's next for Jon Jones? If he beats Stipe, he might retire. He might vanish again. Or he might keep going and face the next beast that dares to rise. But one thing's for sure, when they tried to silence him, they didn't kill his career. They made him more dangerous. Because Jon Jones doesn't care what the world thinks. He only cares what happens when that cage door closes. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Jon Jones's dangerous comeback, hit that like button. Drop a comment with your favorite Jon fight. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that go beyond the headlines.